Sorry to interrupt, but there doesn't appear to be any audio.
The other thing about the agencies, I discovered I was fighting with my lawyer about, well, I wasn't fighting, I was more yelling at her, and she was taking it because I was so frustrated. She was just telling me, yes, they can do this. Yes, they can get a consent decree. And I said, what did we violate? And she said, well, Section 5 of the FTC Act is what they're saying you might be ensnared in. Well, what is that? So here's the outrageous part. Section 5 of the FTC Act says that Congress has empowered them to protect consumers from deception and unfairness. And doesn't that sound great? We, of course, as consumers, want to be protected from deception and unfairness. So we have the little consumer and the big bad guy. And they're going to protect you from the big bad guy. And that's how they position everything. But what they don't say is they don't have to make up rules in data security. They don't have to make up standards. They don't have to have public commentary. So they argue. So I'm like, because I've got the basic questions of any American, which is, what did we do wrong? Because if we did something wrong, of course you want to know. And that's been my experience with all the healthcare regulators. Do something wrong, We all learn together. We have 30 days to fix it. We all move down the road. But when you have this type of vicious attack, that type of open relationship does not happen. And so I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, but we don't have any patients out. Oh, it doesn't matter. No, you have to be unfair. I mean, and that doesn't mean you have any actual damage. It is, you have to have a data security system that has the vulnerability that something could go wrong, which is, only 10 workstations in the world, especially now. It's 2008. It's 2008, folks, and then go into 2010. So it's and these are government lawyers. This is not MIT. So this is so as long as it's a law, it's fine to them. I mean, my dad always said the first thing they call in law school is logic and their conscience, and this is what we're dealing with. It's like, well, the law gives us this broad. They love this. I'm telling you. As I got to know the FTC people, I mean, every time they're in a meeting, the thing they say ad nauseum is, Congress gave us broad authority, which means they've got a huge taffy pull of the law, and they can just turn it into whatever little balloon toy they want to make it. And since they're very frustrated with Congress, there's no cybersecurity legislation, and they're terrified that we're all being attacked. And so all they've got is Section 5, and they're going to stretch this. And when they attack these companies, it costs millions of dollars to battle this. So the companies roll over. But the companies weren't facing debt. If I wasn't facing corporate debt, I would have probably, honestly, I probably would have rolled over too. But they get away with this level of intimidation, so it never gets out to court for anyone to say you can't do this. Everyone rolls over because it's cheaper before you get an outside agency or outside court or Congress to say you can't do it. And they feed off that. So I discover Section 5 is there, and then I say, well, how can they do this? Well, Congress created all these agencies, and I'll tell you, happy birthday, the FTC just celebrated their 100-year anniversary 2 weeks ago. So that means this agency is way bigger than any Congress or any political class that's coming through. They have had a century to put their roots down and build their fortress. And these are almost like, I'm telling you, these are almost like different countries. Congress has allowed them to have their own courts, their own rules, and as long as Congress says that's okay, it ties the hands of the judicial system from stopping it. So, and this is where I'll get quite sort of fundamental about the Founding Fathers' intent in developing our government the way they did, is we have the executive branch and the judicial branch, and then the legislative branch was split in two. Split in two because we know governments, I don't care left or right, I don't care, governments that have access to making laws will just make them all day long because that shows they're doing something and that gets them reelected, and that's supposed to be made difficult. That's why it was split. And so I don't know what they were thinking back in the Roosevelt administration or before, in the early 20th century, but they created what we call the fourth branch of government, the government agency. They basically wipe out the separation of powers. And they let these guys have all this universal power based on fear, right, to save us. Well, we have to, every sort of founding principle is just washed out. And that's what people don't know, that when the agencies come to you, they have all sorts of power to make you succumb. And it's not, it's the road to fairness is millions of dollars and years of your attention. And that makes this playing field like this. In my book, I call it The Long Climb of Justice Mountain. So I'm learning all this, and what happens is I say that the separation becomes a fist, and now you have the pounding fist against the intention of the Founding Fathers. And I'm right under it. And my lawyer's trying to explain to me, this ain't so good. Yes, Mike, you can have done nothing wrong. Yes, Mike, they can have not found anything. Yes, they don't have to tell you they don't have to put proactive standards. They can just go back on a case-by-case basis and say, that wasn't right. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And what I was learning through the real world is there's sort of a subgroup of people in DC, like congressmen really don't know this. Staffers really don't know this, because these weren't the congressmen or staffers that created this. And people that go through this are suppressed. But the lawyers that work in this, when I talked to them trying to find some expert lawyers in DC, they acted like, I said, it was just like the moment your doctor tells you you have a terminal illness, because they were like, oh my, I am so sorry. This is just, you're effed. You are under a force much larger than you can possibly deal with. I'm just like, this ain't happening. Okay, so that's that background, right? So that drives me to get out of this, because I'm like, well, if I'm dead because of a taint, or I'm dead because I'm fighting, then I'm going down fighting. There's no way, and that's just me. So I'm a freak of nature, and that is that's their bad luck.
So you're in the right place.
And that's why I'm happy to die. And so,
Oh, watch back.
okay. Agree? Okay, well, you're on a Google Hangout now. Anyway, all right, so what I discover in that when I start doing is I find a 2007 oversight hearing. And I see in front of Waxman and Dolphus Towns from the committee, who is testifying? That guy on the phone, Robert Bobbitt, is in a suit and tie, and he's talking to oversight. And he talks about his software, and he talks about how, or his company, who monitors several hundred million users and does 300 million searches per day, and they monitor. And their whole foundation is, if you have a file that you made vulnerable, even inadvertently, presto changeo, that's the public domain, and that's me to take, and it's mine, and I got lots of them. I got several hundred million of them, and I've got military files, and I got financial files, and I found these medical files, and folks, we have to get this solved. And who's he sitting with? Why, the Federal Trade Commission. And who else is there? Why, his advisory board guy. He's testifying, General Wesley Clark.
Oh,
and so what we have here is, I'm like, oh, I get it, yeah. These people have never met before. And so then, I have, I also find, well, I'm going to go back here. So I also find, talked in front of Congress 2009, in front of Commerce, talked in front of Oversight again in 2009, and I find my file, the first page of my file, in the testimony, redacted out. The patient information is redacted out, and LabMD is redacted out, but I know it's my property. Now let me tell you something. You've gone through this for 2 years, and again, this is before Snowden, before Assange, before WikiLeaks, so when I say to friends, there's some connection here, almost universally people think it's my problem. That there's, Mike, you're just too wound up. It's got that conspiracy thing going again. So, so I just didn't tell anybody because I didn't believe it. I believed what I basically saw was what was going on. So then I also found out that Homeland Security had given $24.5 million to Dartmouth for a study. And the study was to go and look for all these files out there and see what's going on in these leaks, because what I found out in the government's interest was they're finding well-intentioned employees inadvertently sharing military, Department of Defense, tax returns, financial stuff, Pentagon backbone, they found all sorts of stuff. So they're like, what's going on? And who did Dartmouth use for this study? Tiversa. And how did Tiversa say they got our file? Part of the study. So I'm like, well, okay, now let's roll back to the FTC. So you're telling me because of a government-funded study where Dartmouth uses Tiversa's technology to go out and look, and Tiversa's up there testifying in front of Congress on how their stuff is oh so powerful. And at one point he says it does 1.5 billion searches per day. That that's like saying that you should be able to always defend your house from an Israeli army, or you're guilty. And so I'm just, and then my lawyers are, and I'm thinking, I've got it, I've cracked it, we're free. And my lawyer's like, oh no, you're not, because I'm sorry, my duty as defending you is to tell you, the Federal Trade Commission doesn't care. We don't. I mean, it would blow your mind. In the book, there's all sorts of emails and things from lawyers that are defending me. They say, doesn't matter, they don't care. The fact that it got out, Mike, it got out. I'm like, something about that getting out is wrong. But I'm not buying this. And so, but the smart move in front of a big growling bear is to not fight with it, even though you're right. So we spent the next year and a half spending God knows how much money with another law firm, repackaging the Christmas gifts for the FTC, kissing their ass, as I say in the book, and giving them the same information over and over. And we tried everything. And the big thing you try then, and I'm learning, right, is that there's a whole triangle in DC, what I call it the corporation government law firm incest, where it's this triangle of like, well, I work at the government, and I want to have a job at this expensive law firm. So if the expensive law firm calls in for their client, I might pay attention. Because it's against the law? No, because I want a job there when I leave this hall. And so you got to hook your wagon up to the right law firm. And then the corporations have the big bucks to pay for that big law firm. So that's how it's all. And so here I am, a small businessman owning a cancer detection center, and I'm playing government hopscotch, trying to figure out what's the politics of fairness here. And they find me really amusing. I mean, at this point, I think they just thought I was just really hilarious. Like, this guy, is he the century classic entrepreneur that's outraged? Isn't that cute? I really thought they thought I was cute. And so, and I'm trying to be really nice because I don't want to piss them off. So we're giving them everything again and again. 10,000 pages at this point. Now I'm telling you, we spent almost $500,000, if not that. Because now we're like, okay, wait a minute. Well, forget that we're wrong. At this point, everyone's made it damn clear. Forget right or wrong. Forget justice. Just what do these behemoths want you to do, and just do it. But I'm not signing a consent decree, so the world can think I did something wrong. So that is not happening. So what can we do to kind of make these people go away? Well, we give them everything pretty, and then we decide, okay, what are we supposed to do right? Well, since they won't tell you what you did wrong, since they have no standards, you don't know what you can do right. So if you don't know what's right, you just go for as high as you can go. So who's got the biggest stuff for data security? So we're like WebSense, Trustwave. And guess what? These companies have no products for teeny companies with 40 employees. It doesn't exist. Evidently, that doesn't matter because logic doesn't matter to a government lawyer. So it doesn't matter. And then just put that in your rule book, okay? Because that just, you can just waste your time on that. So we had to work. We got about 3 quotes from these companies that were willing to customize a package for us to bring the price down, which was still 6 figures. But we ended up with WebSense. Put that in. The FTC thought that was way too slow. That was just way too slow. You just took your time getting that stuff in there. They don't know that, but they get to say what they want because they have no accountability. Because Congress has said they can make their own rules. They can have their own little administrative court, and all they have to do is pass the rules by Congress, which is about a very quick, here they are. And because, you know, the cemeteries, no one cries in the cemetery, and all those prior victims are dead. So they're not hearing any objections, and they put their new rules in and they pass. So that ties the judicial system's hands. So the judges will say, well, Congress said if you want to object about what's going on in this process, you have to wait till it's over. There's no intervening, says the Supreme Court in '58 or something, you know, some year. And there's these, and so I'm like, okay, so we have got to, we know we have to somehow just lay down and act really differential and bite our tongues and be sweet and kiss her ass and do these things, and hopefully they'll go away. That was 2011. At the end of 2011, they called after all that work and all that money, and I don't even want to give you the amount of time of psychological warfare on my staff, especially IT staff, because they're like, you know, these are people that have knowledge, so they're totally frustrated. They're like, what? It's like, so let me get this straight. We don't know if it got out there. There's no evidence anywhere. There's no victims. And we had you know, outside company, inside company, firewalls, and all that new stuff. We're in this state. It was so frustrating them, it just burned them out. And so we get a call at the end of October, and they said, you know, we want to negotiate a consent decree. Now at that point, I had already asked them. No, I knew what I was dealing with. I was being proactive here, and I said, do you want to come to Atlanta to see what we're doing here? And is there anything else you need? Because they didn't know that the no was coming. And they said, no, we're fine with everything, because they're so arrogant. I mean, they they squeeze the heads of CEOs of major corporations, so I am nothing. And so we said no, which was, I said, I joked, they went, no? Do you guys know what no means? Who's got the dictionary? What does no mean? Anyone know here? And so, so they're like, there's only K-N-O-W, but anyway, I don't think it means that. And so, so we went, and then comes the huff and puff and blow your house down episode. Well, we're going to sue you tomorrow. We're like, okay. And they didn't. But instead, what else comes this pattern of, and they love psychological warfare. I'm telling you, they just get their jollies up. And so Christmas Eve, I get an email saying that they want to. I have a CID, which is a government subpoena on steroids. They want to ask more questions. So after 2 years and over $500,000 and 3 different types of lawyers, 3 law firms, they have more questions. So this is where, and then now suddenly for the first time they've gone, wait a minute, that cute little obnoxious guy's not playing. And so, so they're going to start attacking now. So I realize this. At this point, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go down in flames. So I want everyone to know about this. And I have to do it credibly. I can't do it, you know, tin hat. I can't do it emotionally. I can't hold picket signs outside. I won't get credibility if I do that. So I have to just tell the story. And boy, I need them to give me my material. And because I'm kind of coming out of the cloud. So I said, all right, so how do we object to this? It was the first time I really woke up and took control of the law firms. And I said, we are not signing anything. I want this all documented. So what happens to object to the CID? Well, you have to go to the commissioner that sent you the CID, that wants you to sit and try to quash it. I said, so let me get this straight. I have to go back to the commissioner that thinks I need to have more and say, I don't want you to do it? Yeah, that's what the rules are. Oh, well, that makes sense. So, and they have a hearing. I said, oh, I want to come to the hearing. You can't come to your own hearing. You can't come to the hearing. You can't come to my hearing? No. Now, see what happens, all the unbelievable stuff? If I think that if I would say I came to my own hearing and I'm the victim and I'm upset, people aren't going to believe it. So I said, and this is where I had to retrain the wiring of my lawyers. I said, we're going to appeal this to go through the process because it's BS and I want to fight it all the way, even though you guys think I'm dead anyway. But I also want to have it in writing that I can't to my own hearing, because if I tell people that, they're not going to believe me. So they didn't disappoint. Julie Brill was the commissioner going through this. So Julie Brill wrote, you know, motion to quash denied, you know, request to attend hearing denied. I'm like, now my lawyers were surprised I was so excited about that. I'm like, I've got it in writing. I've got proof I'm not crazy. This is awesome. And they're like, why are you so excited about that? So then we have to go to the next stage. Now we're in 2012. And we appeal to all the commissioners. Same game. So don't go to court, don't go to outside court of law. The very same people that sent you this, you go back to them and say, I want to quash it. You get to spend, I don't know, that letter was 15 grand from the law firm. And so, and see how the game is? To me, the game is get the prisoner, drain him dry and exhaust him before he gets to court. That's the game. And so, but we got lucky. So in the Federal Trade Commission, you've got 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans because it's a Democratic presidency. And if it was a Republican presidency, it'd be 3 and 2. So there are 3 Obama Democrats, there's 1 Bush Republican, and there's 1 Obama Republican. So I thought we were going to get 5-0 and laughed out the whole hall. I was just trying to document this all the way down the road. And we get 3, too bad for you. 1, the Obama Republican, chicken shit, she stains. She'll love that. But yes, Mark. That's what I think about that decision. And then Roush says, no way. You can while you can investigate LabMD if you want, you should not rely on this evidence from Tiversa, because this is a company that has a self-interest in finding files, taking them, trying to get their services, blah, blah, blah. Now, that was great because we were even expecting even that much of a victory. And we saw them, well, maybe there's a little infighting. And so, but of course, now we have to move on. So now it's the summer, and the FTC calls up and says, oh, you're going to sit for the CID now? And we're like, well, no. We're obviously being cooperative. Because believe me, they're putting little firecrackers and bombs along the road, so you might say something wrong like, we're not going to cooperate. You never say not going to cooperate. You just smile and take it. When you cooperate, you say, no, we want to go to court because we don't think you have jurisdiction to go here. So while we are certainly cooperating, we're challenging your jurisdiction that you can even do this. So now, therefore, now I'm telling you, this is a hornet's nest that hasn't been shaken in centuries, and they are pissed off. And so we're making them go to the DOJ to have to sue me, to force me to sit for this. So, and I want the courts involved. I want the public to be aware of this. I'm just draining the clock. And that's sort of 2012. We win. We pull the judge letter and get Judge Duffy. Judge Duffy is a former U.S. attorney sits in the federal court here in Atlanta, is no BS, and can't stand when lawyers come in his office and in his courtroom and kind of don't have their act together. We knew this. The FTC did not. So we were like ready for final exams. Yes, sir. And they come in, and the first thing on their mouth is thank you for having what would normally be a summary hearing, which means it's code for saying this is kind of a waste of time. We're so sorry. If you would just sign here, we'll all move on. And that ticked him off. So while we were ready, we spoke for like 3 minutes, and he lectured them for 27. Now, he's not an advocate judge, although the transcripts are very entertaining because he beat them up. And so he gave us our response the Monday after Thanksgiving, not ruining my holiday, unlike the Christmas before. And by the way, okay, that was when I got my first iPad, and it was Christmas Eve, and I'm like, and they're thinking my family's thinking I'm obsessed with my iPad, like already. He won't even interact with us, but what I'm doing is I'm using the iPad to research, but I couldn't tell anyone. So they're like, God, that iPad must be fantastic. I'm like, yeah. Anyway, so I go, thank God for that iPad. So I could mobile research all through the house. So still enjoy the holidays. So what's my next one here? Okay, all right. So now we get to court, and then he rules on Monday after Thanksgiving. Here's his ruling. While I'm basically asked to sit here and decide if Daugherty has to sit for CID. That's all I'm asked to decide here. This case, he has some really valid points. He didn't have to say that. That's a big hint. The FTC, like, what the hell are you doing? But you didn't ask me to do that. This is all that's in front of me. And according to the Supreme Court decision to blah, 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 the U.S. government can cab you in for any question whatsoever. I mean, it is such a low standard. Like, do you breathe? We can question. But I wanted to just document all this, so I'm like the victory. So instead of me just rolling in for summary, I had to sit for that CID in February of 2013. So that means I got the hornet's nest shaken for 14 months. And I got a whole lot of information. I got to stand up for my rights, and I got to learn a lot about the system. And I got to document it, so I didn't just have to tell you, I could show you from all that's there. So it's working. And I realized this court system is a joke. This is just hilarious, and so I'm going to, the only thing I had was book writing and the power of the pen. So I start deciding I'm going to write the book, and this is before the election, so that I mean, here I'm criticizing DC, and everyone's like, you're not criticizing Barack Obama, are you? And I'm like, that has nothing to do with it. And believe me, if I said I was criticizing Barack Obama, everyone would shut right down. So I'm not even going to bring that up because it's got nothing to do with it. But I had to circumvent that before the election. And then I had to make sure it was all accurate and objective. And that was fine. So I'm book writing. I took I told my VP and the managers that I was going to be working just Monday and Wednesday, Friday. They were so happy. And so and so I started doing that. And then then we have Snowden, and everyone's like, the people in the publishing side with me were like, oh my God, this story, I mean, it's so unbelievable, but now we believe it because you've got Snowden out here, and this is really happening, so this is so timely, this book's going to sell like crazy. And they got wind of the book, and they got real upset, and I sat for the CID, and then but at this point I have a website up, and Tiversa sent me a cease and desist letter because I put a book trailer that all I did in the book trailer was say government shakedown, and I played their testimony, and you got Wesley Clark going, this is awesome. Go to my website with the book trailer. It's fantastic. I do have a small stake in the company, and he scratches his forehead. So, okay. So, so that's okay. This is great. And so August, the book's almost done. I worked on it for about 16 months. August 29th, I'm speaking in Orlando, and that morning I get woken up by the Associated Press. It was my one, I swear to God, my one day. I went a day early so I could just close the door and not interact with anybody and sleep. So at 10:30, the maid did the door thing, and I woke up, so I turned everything on, and my phone just going beep, 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 and I got lawyer text, where are you, where are you? And then the phone rings as it's put, I mean, it's the Associated Press going, you've been sued by the Federal Trade Commission. I have? Fantastic! They're like, fantastic! I'm like, this is great! I get to show the world what these assholes are like! This is so awesome! And So then I thought, well, the book was supposed to go to the printer the next day. So I'm like, this is divine intervention. So that day I was supposed to rest, I wrote the last chapter of the book. So that's why the last chapter of the book is the most poorly edited chapter of the book. And I took their press release because before they sue you, of course they release a press release indicting you with masterfully written stuff. Like, they don't use the word breach, but everyone out in the world thinks that it's a breach. Because we all know enough to be dangerous, but not enough to be accurate, unless you're in your world of real technology, right? And so I finished this book, and then a week later, boom, another lawsuit. Tiversa and Bobick sue me for defamation. So now I'm being sued for defamation, sued by the FTC. My lawyers are perplexed because I'm in a really good mood. And so, but then my dad got sick, and he went to hospice, and my book came out, and then he passed away in October. And then the company started I'll skip over some of this because we got to get to questions here, what's happened since. But that fall, after that, there's this psychological warfare. People are terrified of the feds. And I'm I think because of what I grew up in, I'm like feeding off the fight. This is becoming such a big deal to me that I'm like I know I'm trapped, and so it's like, again, I've been trapped for years, so I'm either going to make something positive about this, or I'm going to like roll. And so, but other people don't feel that way, so the FTC, when they sued me, they sent 40 subpoenas out. They subpoenaed doctors, vendors, employees that left in 2006. We had to go to Idaho, California, Texas, Ohio, DC, Florida, Atlanta. We had to go everywhere, and they were just scaring the crap. I mean, how would you like to be, a 26-year-old IT guy who really had a Windows NT certificate and now is doing graphics work and have to sit in front of the federal government? I mean, these people are like, what do you want me to say? And so it was more of a shock and awe, pounding. And I'm like, great, we're going to show what they're like again. And so while that goes on, then the company really, a lot of key people left. It was psychological warfare. They were exhausted. The feet of the company had been tied together so that our preparations for Obamacare, so that we'd have to shift our business, go into other areas, streamline, get into molecular, get into breast cancer. We couldn't do it. So by the time this starts to hit, we had our first terrible year ever, plus key people were taken off through intimidation, and we closed January 15th of 2014. So I'm overwhelmed with that. I'm also spending time in Congress throughout the year before trying to slowly relationship build. Not going to my congressman saying, please help me, because that's a waste of time. But trying to educate them as to what this agency is doing, because believe it or not, FTC is in a silo. They want to come up and give a little 5-minute story when they testify a few times a year, and that's it. And they're in their own world. And there's not a lot of stories that come over. So I'm trying to relationship build so I can tell the story and tell what's going on and not scare them so they'll let me come back. So if you're going to Congress and scream and yell and beg, you got one shot and it probably won't be happening. So that paid off because in April, I was in a Thai restaurant on Windy Hill, and a whistleblower called and said, hi, I used to work for Tiversa. And boy, I'm so sorry. And I can't tell you a lot about what he said because it's still under proffer. And all I can tell you is what's already out in public. But basically, he said that the allegations that the Federal Trade Commission used, that our file was found in 4 different locations around the world, is bogus. That the lawyer that works for the FTC knows it. That they did not verify evidence, and a whole lot of other stuff. And that got Congress's attention, and we're trying to negotiate immunity for him to this day. To negotiate immunity through House oversight, and I went to oversight because that is who these hearings were before, and I wanted to set the record straight of what was testified to them. That now it's about them and shooting straight with them and what's gone on before, so they start investigating. That investigation is still going on. And the book ends at the lawsuit, by the way. So what's happened since the book has been the whistleblower. I testify in front of Congress. I'm going to play that right now. It's 6 minutes, and then we're going to just talk generally about what's going on. So are y'all pretty clear? Okay. Believe it or not, that was okay. So we're changing to that.
That was the
In theory.
Oh yeah, well, yeah.
let's take a break for a few minutes.
2 minutes, 3 minute Western break. 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
I'll stay in there for 10 minutes. 6 minutes.
Wow.
I spoke to 500 people at the Healthcare Financial Management Group last week, and they were just, I mean, well, they were. It was terrible because when I was done, they were just like,
I know.
Right.
Okay.
and the cameraman said, I didn't even keep on you as much as you used to do because I had to go around and get the looks on their faces. And then by that night, they had had time to thank me at the cocktail reception. They were just, but when they left, I was like, oh my God, I got paid to scare the hell out of these people. And I thought that people would be mad that paid me. They were very excited. So, but anyway, yeah, charming.
That's when opening up your own business. I have my own, and I tell you what, that scares. America's built on entrepreneurship and great companies that go out and start their own businesses, and our government wants to shut us all down. They want our money. They want to shut us down. It's exactly.
Well, they want their jobs because those zealots.
They don't
think
want us
that we're
to-
evil because they've never been in that world.
Oh, they
They've never been in
don't.
the world. So
They don't know how to
what they
operate.
think they're doing is,
Well,
which is,
it's also that the scary part is you're dealing with the FTC, but I suspect that every federal agency
It is.
has rules of oversight.
That's right.
Has their own little fiefdom that
Oh,
they
they
set up.
make up whatever rules they want. They apply it to you regardless of whether it applies or not. I mean, and if you can be small and stay off the radar screen, you're okay.
Right.
But once you get big enough to have any threat on anybody, you're in trouble. So it's really it's a very sad commentary.
well, but they do pick on small companies because they don't think they'll get a fight back.
Right. There's that.
So and they all are slightly different.
Right.
But the EPA and the IRS and the FTC, I mean, I'm telling you, these guys. And the FTC isn't really a sexy one. Like I've been on a lot of radio and some TV, but I can't break through on the big networks. I've talked to CNN. I've been to Anderson Cooper's. I've talked to Fox. Everyone seems to think I'll be on Fox every day. Fox has nothing because it's too much for them to take. And Anderson Cooper's producer said to me, "I'm not on it, man."
Actually, you probably, I'm sure your voice is.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, moving right along. I really, CNN's so awesome. But, well, they're having a hard time. First of all, there are no investigative journalists.
Well, see, I'm not sure where I'm assuming this is the microphone right here.
Go right ahead.
She said I could read it. Seriously, this whole
I
thing.
think that's the volume. I think that's the mic pickup.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Trying to mute it. We were trying to mute the audio.
Oh, you want me to mute the audio? I can mute the audio for a second. Here. Hey, Decode, I'm going to mute the audio for a second. I'll turn it back on.
No problem.
Ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay, we're back online.
Okay, will you just make it open? Make sure the size bigger so they can see.
Yes.
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay.
Good morning, Chairman Reisa, Ranking Member Cohen, and members of the committee. My name is Michael Daugherty, and I'm the President and CEO of LabMD, a cancer detection laboratory based in Atlanta, Georgia. We were a private company that I founded in 1996, a small medical facility that at its peak employed approximately 40 medical professionals who touch nearly 1 million lives. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you as a small businessman and medical professional about my experience and opinion at the hands of the Federal Trade Commission. What happens in my company, its employees, physicians, and their patients is what springs from the FTC's unsupervised playbook. And that playbook relies upon coercive and extortionate strategies to make large and small companies alike quickly succumb to FTC whims. In May 2008, our nightmare began with a call that could happen to any American. It was from Robert Ballbeck, the CEO of Tiversa. In the words of former FTC Commissioner Roche, Tiversa is more than an ordinary witness, informant, or whistleblower. It is a commercial entity that has a financial interest in intentionally exposing and capturing sensitive files on computer networks. Mr. Ballbeck told LabMD that Tiversa had found LabMD patient data on the internet but refused to tell us more unless we paid and retained them. Everyone in medicine knows you cannot go out intentionally looking for vulnerable medical files so you can take them, read them, keep them, distribute them. This is probably a crime, but it's definitely vigilant behavior, and it's outrageous. In January 2010, Aaron Shear, an attorney with the FTC, contacted LabMD with an 11-page, single-spaced letter opening a non-public inquiry. We responded by sending in nearly 10,000 pages of documents, and I invited the FTC to come to Atlanta to see our facility, to tell us what we were doing differently, to tell us what their standards were. The FTC declined. We quickly discovered that until told otherwise by the courts or Congress, the FTC presumes to have jurisdiction to investigate any company or person. When we asked the FTC where they were going with this, they would obscurely mention consent decrees. And we learned that FTC consent decrees actually are this. You sign up for 20 years of audits, you enter the FTC Hall of Shame via craftily worded press releases and half-truth congressional testimony. The fact that you've not been found of any wrongdoing stays buried deep in the fine print, and the threat of being tied up for years in court and drained financially is their gun to the head to extract false confessions. In August 2010, I had to find out what was going on here because something felt odd and wrong, and I learned that Homeland Security gave $24 million to Dartmouth to partially fund their data hemorrhage study. And Dartmouth stated that it got the LabMD file by using Tiversa's unique and powerful technology. Tiversa put out a press release in May 2009, I found, which in part stated, Tiversa, this is their words, Tiversa today announced the findings of new research that revealed 13 million breach files emanating from over 4 million sources. Tiversa's patent-pending technology monitors over 450 million users, issuing 1.5 billion searches per day. Over a 2-week period, Dartmouth College researchers and Tiversa searched file-sharing networks and discovered a treasure trove, a spreadsheet from an AIDS clinic with 232 client names, a 1,718-page document from a medical testing laboratory, and requiring no software or hardware, Tiversa detects, locates, and identifies exposed files in real time, end quote. What does Tiversa want you to think exposed means? Out of 13 million files found by Tiversa, how odd is it that the two mentioned in the press release are sitting at this table today? I was stunned that nobody was asking who this private company was who was stockpiling other people's sensitive information. What gave them the right to assume ownership? September 2013 to April 2014, the FTC pursued litigation against LabMD via their optional administrative process rather than in federal court. FTC Commissioner Wright said this process provides the FTC with institutional and procedural advantages. This is lawyer speak, for the FTC stacks the deck when in favor via rules Congress allows them to make. They admit hearsay that would never fly in federal court, which is why we aren't in federal court. Federal courts won't intervene because Congress says they can't. When asked about the FTC data security standards, Aaron Shear said, and I quote, "There is nothing out there for a company to look at. There is no rulemaking. No rules have been issued. Yet even without any standards, show others what happens if you push back. They subpoenaed approximately 40 different individuals in my company, long-gone LabMD employees that left the company after 7 years before, current staff, managers, outside physicians, vendors. These witnesses were forced to retain counsel and were intimidated and scared. Here's the message to all that are watching from the FTC. This is FTC justice, and this is going to happen to you if you don't play along. And then the penny dropped. During a trial, a former Tiversa employee who was to testify regarding Tiversa's acquisition of LabMD data and subsequent submission of the data to the FTC invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. All Americans should be outraged by the FTC's unchecked ability to pursue a claim that is not based on any legal standard. Outraged that the FTC's administrative proceedings do not afford the same guarantees of due process that our federal courts provide. Be outraged with the FTC's use of and reliance on information of private or for-profit entity. If this has happened to LabMD, a small medical facility, a cancer detection center, this will happen to anyone. This does nothing to help Americans adapt to the constantly changing cybersecurity landscape. We are not mind readers. We are law-abiding citizens. I call on the FTC to stop attacking victims of crimes, and I thank the committee for its time and attention to this matter.
So the next witness, if you ever want to listen, I'm shocked people watch the whole 2-hour, 45-minute hearing. They said they make it a movie, but the next guy is from an AIDS clinic called Open Door Clinic, and in Chicago. And I found them just through coincidence that they had the same law firm insurance carrier, and they had their file found by Tiversa and got the same phone call with the same contract, same proposal, and they didn't sign up, and presto changeo, and you can hear the allegations from ISA, since I have to be kind of careful here, but they got sued in a John and Jane Doe lawsuit on behalf of the patients from a law firm that coincidentally was in Pittsburgh. Gosh, the connection was such just a shock. And that poor guy, I mean, I've been dealing with this for 6 years. He knew about this about a month before he testified. And it's just the fact that it is a bully for it. Anyway, okay, so we got a question. My big picture end of this is that, look, this is just one story, but this is what happens when you have lawyers and agencies want to regulate technology and medicine. And the big picture goal of the Federal Trade Commission is this. I'm the guinea pig. They want to get this through the court system, through any means possible, so that they can get a ruling from the courts that say, yes, you guys have jurisdiction over cybersecurity and data security practices. And that is one scary thing. So that's it. Yes, with their hand up.
I was wondering, does closed investigation, when the first letter that you got from the FTC, does that mean you couldn't have gone public?
Oh, I could have gone public then, I guess, but we were so naive at the time.
Then I wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, they said, now, I could do whatever the heck I wanted. At that point, that was like, again, there's a certain intelligence in, I mean, I wanted all of them just to go away. I mean, Tiversa, I just wanted to go away. The FTC just wanted to go away, and everyone also said they're going to go away.
And as a business owner, I'm also a business owner. I would have shut down my business, changed the name, and then brought it back up.
But you can't do that when you're a licensed medical facility. I mean, we're a licensed medical facility. I mean, so that, I mean, you just can't do it. I mean, you got Medicare numbers, you got licenses, you got employees, you just, and then that's a red flag because we're under heavy duty. Like, why are you doing it? You know who people that do that in medicine? They're the questionable doc in the box shops all over the place that are crunching, that are, so that are trying to hide behind the corporate veil. So that would have been, it was,
That's as bad as signing the letter.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, in our space, so any other questions? Yes.
I was about to say, you had a team of IT specialists and they were fed up and frustrated. You could have turned them off that.
I've turned them No, they, it's too surreal for most people, I think. It was a very painful, real-world experience. I mean, the reason I wrote the book the way I wrote the book was as stories, so you guys can get into the story, because if I just yell it at you, it's not going to click. And to watch how they felt, I mean, these are people that just have been young, trained in IT. You feel like you're doing something meaningful because you're also working in a cancer detection center. You're handling patient data and information. You're helping that system work. It streamlines access to that data. reduces speed to that data, makes it faster to come in. We eliminated errors. I mean, really, with all due respect to humans, the less humans in that process, the better. The faster, more accurate everything is, right? And so they worked on it. So that was, and then have them have to see this and live with it. It was too much. And so I just think, you know, that's how you break that. Now, my assumptive mindset of the Federal Trade Commission is, well, that carnage is just kind of worth it to the bigger picture. We're here to protect consumers, and that's unfortunate, but we are here to protect consumers. And so that that's their mantra, and they'll tell you they're here to protect consumers, and they're here to what's their broad authority. Now, the interesting thing about this is Health and Human Services said we did nothing wrong. People in medicine are so busy practicing medicine, I think they're very underrepresented in DC, which is why we have such a mess with Obamacare. And the AMA, by the way, has like 28% doctor membership. People think the AMA, in media, think, oh, the AMA said the AMA, and most of the doctors go, the AMA. They're not. And that's, you know, oh, the AMA and AARP went for Obamacare. Yeah, like, yeah, that's none of us either. But anyway, that's what happens when you have them involved and you don't have that core involved. And that's what, you know, I don't know. What was my point? I lost my point on that. But when you have that type of, they're unrepresented in DC, and so that's how these things happen until after. And it's been hard. It's been, because I've been so tied up, that first big thing I did in New Jersey was the first thing to really ring the alarm bell. I mean, this isn't like, here's my sad story, come cry with me. That's not what this is about. This is, our agencies have been built with this type of unbelievable power. And right now, it's coming to show what a problem that is. Because if things move slowly, you can kind of see how maybe that's okay. I don't think that, and I've been told this by lawyers, that people that developed this whole agency system were trying to sort of, you know, subcontract out and have them full of experts. And they're not full of experts anymore. They've gotten big, they've gotten entrenched, their eyes off the ball, and it's a power game. And they're very frustrated with Congress that Congress doesn't have cybersecurity legislation. They're very frustrated because, you know, these people all tend to be straight out of academia, then go to government, you know, and so then they're very embarrassed because, oh, well, you know, if that crowd, oh, if Europe doesn't like us, oh my God, and so Europe's looking down their nose at the United States and their lack of cybersecurity stuff, but I'm like, yeah, I have no problem with regulation. I have a problem with those people being the regulators and not being held accountable and not getting input. I mean, they argue they don't need to get feedback. Now, HHS, we've had all sorts of medical feedback. You know, when we developed HIPAA, it was within the industry. It took years. There was tons of commentary, not the FTC. And so this is where I want DEF CON to understand how this bleeds over, because I don't know if you guys want to have them start calling what's legal in the cybersecurity world. Right. Anyway. Anyone else? Did I scare you all like the healthcare crowd?
So they're all about the ends justify the means.
The ends justify the means, and it's just so amazing because I'm just such an antagonist. I mean, here's another story about that. So so Julie Brill goes to Brussels, and two things there. Back up one step. When I got sued, a nonprofit government law firm, nonprofit government accountability law firm called Cause of Action, took up the fight. So the financial bleeding to me on lawyer bills stopped. Somewhat. Vast majority. So that's been good. Because, see, you're talking war, okay? This is war. And war is expensive. War means, well, the other side's war is like, I'm going to drain you dry before you can get out to the judge. I mean, you know, because corpses don't talk a lot. And so...
Can you explain that to everyone about this stuff that you're having to get through? So you're still not finished.
No, we're not done. Because when the FTC takes an action, they have a choice. They can go right to the federal courts, or they can take a stop over the administrative court. So for me, I don't know why. My guess is they wanted to drain me dry, and maybe it wasn't as strong a case, and they wanted to make an example, and I couldn't fight back, they assumed. So that they could, again, it's all about, if you don't get to they do what they want until they're told not to do it. And who can tell them not to do it is Congress, and good luck getting them organized enough to say don't do something. Or the courts and the Supreme Court. Well, to get to that costs a lot of money, and small companies certainly can't get to it. So they can keep going through this until someone fights them all the way. And they also want to get into healthcare. They like, probably, I don't know, I can't speak for them, but I assume they like the fact that I'm going to force them into courts. They're sure, of course, maybe not now, since we have a whistleblower and allegations of corruption. But before that happened, you know, I assume they wanted to get this out, and they assumed that they could use an example of me, because they want to do what they have is this concept of common law, which is they're required to let people know and have people have resources to know what's expected. And one of the ways they argue that for you to know what's expected of you is to read the consent decrees, read the settlements. So you see, now suddenly the language he was using in 2010 is making sense of why he was picking those words. They want to build all that common law, you know, history, so that later, if they do get to court, they're going, well, we told them through all this. So we did notify the public. And guess who they're circumventing? They're creating law without having the law created by who should be creating the law. So they're circumventing Congress. And in their mind, that's a worthwhile, noble profession and a noble goal, because they think Congress is inadequately protecting us because they're not having cybersecurity regulations. Because you guys all know, if Congress had a cybersecurity law, that the Ukrainian hackers and the Chinese hackers and the Russian hackers would absolutely be dead in the tracks. So, you know, that's it. Right. And so this, and I'm telling you, this is how they think. I'm not making this up. If it's a maybe in a parallel world, so you can't argue the parallel world, they're going to argue the parallel world. And so that whole process is what I want people to see. Because I'm already dead. The company's gone. But bizarre world. Bizarre world.
So my question, maybe it's kind of the wrong question, but
there's no wrong question.
The computer security people,
yeah.
You're not fighting the Ukrainian hackers here.
Hell no.
So it's not like that law would have failed to stop them. That wouldn't have been important to you. Do you kind of debate that the file got out via LimeWire or FrostWire? You seem to kind of question that a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't understand your question. Go ahead.
Okay. Do you disagree with the fact that the file probably did get out there via that?
Oh, I know it didn't get out. Oh, there's just things I can't tell you, but trust me, it didn't get out.
So they sent it to you, didn't they?
It's how they got it, which I can't tell you. So, but I can't disclose it. So
we can
wait till next year.
So we can only assume that it was.
But notice how you've assumed guilt already. And that's not your fault. It's not your fault. But did you see how you just defaulted? It assumed that it got out that way.
Were you
because
right?
they
They had it to send it.
Yes.
Did they not? Right.
Okay. Now
so
they
got it
but that doesn't mean how.
Right.
Steal it.
If you run Windows,
well, there's a thing called social engineering.
Well, you're
Chris knows a thing or
a
two.
scientist that deals with security. How many different ways can you exploit a vulnerability in any of the systems you have dealt with in the years?
Well, right, but
Legally zero.
Legally zero.
Well, see, here's the thing. It's like, okay, let me play devil's advocate. Let's play devil's advocate. It got out through LimeWire.
Okay.
Now what? What am I guilty of? What should happen to them? What should happen to LabMD?
Well, so there's one thing first.
Fine.
No, I got the question. I know one thing.
Okay.
Fine.
I deal with these kind of breaches all the time, and
Well, also notice they never use the word breach.
okay.
They haven't used the word. They don't use the word breach with intention.
No. I'm just saying, I deal with breaches all the time, and the question is, can you be held accountable for every breach, no matter what mechanism it was that the breach occurred?
Well,
And the answer is
yes.
No, actually,
No.
you can't.
Well, but here's where the law changes, though. It's not just about you're responsible for the breach; it's reliable disclosure of that happening.
Right.
Now, I want to answer your question, and then I did.
We'll get to that. But for instance,
But you are liable.
But that's disclosure.
But
Yes.
you're not 100% liable. You're liable to correct the problem.
hold on, there's a thing called due diligence.
Yeah.
And due process.
And due process. And, well, we won't get to due process,
Okay.
but due diligence is there are things that you should have done, but none of those things can guarantee that under no circumstances would a breach ever occur.
Right, so for context,
And an example of that is, you did put things in place. You do have policies and procedures. You do train your personnel, and somebody still does something stupid.
Like give admin rights, let people install software.
Well, there are legitimate cases where you actually have a procedure for authorizing someone to have admin rights to install the software, and you train them and you do all this stuff. Unfortunately, if the person has rights legitimately to install software and has admin rights, they can still get stupid, okay? And there is.
And keep in mind, this was 2008.
You know, the key is the courts understand that, and more generally that you did what a prudent person would do, and someone still can get stupid.
And the commissioners have testified that. I mean, the head of the FTC is Edith Ramirez, and she said you can't have personal security. HHS, you can't. In surgery, if we got rid of every doctor that made a mistake, we wouldn't have doctors. I mean, you can't choke it that tight.
Right, but
That's not what the process is about.
So,
what you think? I'm sorry. No, listen to that. I'm sorry. What are you going to say?
I'm trying to finish the context of the question. I think I, as well as any of us in here who do any kind of security, would not say that if anything gets out, you're at fault, you've done wrong. It's just not practical. But the question I was going to get to, maybe this isn't one for the camera, maybe it is, I don't know.
No, it's fine. Most of them are.
What were you doing? Did you do your due diligence?
Oh yeah, and you know what? That's really in the book, and it's a valid question, and it's really important. But you know, and so yes, we did. Of course, so the FTC got to read the complaint. The FTC's like, oh, okay. The FTC upset we didn't. Okay, remember we started with like 5 people in 05. We had like 7 employees in 05. We didn't have all our policies in writing. We did them all. I have proof that we did them. I've got data in the software applications. Software applications exist, but I didn't have it in a pretty form. So that wasn't right. Now, you can say, oh, maybe I should have, but then here comes there's the court of public opinion argument, which is what we're having here, and then there's the legal argument. Okay? Legally, they're saying, oh, they don't have to tell me what to do. They sat there in the trial and before and actually argue, and I quoted it that they don't need to have standards or rules. They can just go on a case-by-case basis. That is some scary stuff, folks. How would you like to have a government that says we are going to do it later and make it go? You know, we are right off the bat. We are on the defensive. We have the assumption, and we have the jury is anyone that wants to have a public opinion. It's insane. So we just have to go by HHS. When I love this. I've made a lot of friends through this experience, really great friends. And a lot of them are people that attacked me in the beginning, and I called them up to inform them. And there was this a woman that writes this privacy thing, and the thing came out, and right away it's like, I don't know if she put this out exactly, but it was like, because if she sees this, I'm sorry. But it was basically, typical MBA, screws up everything, doesn't care about you. I'm like, okay, here we go. There's our default attack. And so I called her up. I said, can I just educate you? I'm not calling to yell. Just want to have a discussion about these assumptions and give you the proof. Now, the beautiful thing about her, a lot of people that are in that sort of extreme, and they're just zealots, they don't want to hear it. We became friends because she was open and intellectually honest. And she, on her own, called HHS and demanded that they investigate us. And she got a written response from HHS that said, there's no issues here. And she published it. Now, when she published that, I was like, okay, good on you. I mean, that was like honest and transparent. And I'm sorry, that doesn't happen a lot. And so that's the thing. But notice the big picture is who's having to immediately guilt until proven innocent, not innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, but that's
it's
because
unbelievable.
Because it's a bureaucratic process, not a court of law.
Oh, even in the court of law, because court of law is so short. Because I'm in the court of public opinion with this. It is such a hot topic. Yeah, and we all know we all use computers, and this sliver knows about how they really work. And so now, unlike 2008, where when I said people hear the word breach, they think breach birth of a baby. Now everyone's an IT expert. You know, they have a computer. Oh, breach, yeah, you know. So it's just, and those are the rule makers. But so the other thing but this opened up to another thing, and this is very quick. But That's a valid question, and I knew as I posed the book, this is exactly, I would do the same thing. I mean, look, it's just human nature. When you see someone arrested and walking down with cuffs on, you're not going to comment on their innocence if you're not intimately involved in that case until you wait to the end. So guess who is in the lonely experience, right? The chained. And so, but I thought, what the hell is the FTC's deal on this? So I met a lot of people, and I got approached by someone. They did some research. I can't disclose their stuff in the book, but basically, come on. Okay, it's not going to work. The old boss is going to, come on. It's stuck. All right, I'll just say, oh, here we go. All right. In 2002, Hewlett-Packard had two scientists put out this usability and privacy study. And they said these 6 different P2P softwares are inadvertently sharing information. Commerce, I believe in the Senate, said, okay, FTC, fix it. So the FTC came out with the code of conduct that they made them all sign. And it was voluntary. And of course, when you've got these people that think they rule the world, they actually think that if they make something voluntary, that's enough. That's how full of themselves they are. Well, here's a shock. Didn't happen. So the FTC goes in front of Congress in 2004. And all this is in the book. It's chapter 28. And a much type. But here's the point. Here's the axe they had to grind. They come and testify. It's appearing to be decreasing. These leaks are appearing to be decreasing. However, Homeland Security and CBS and some other media outlets are going, decreasing. Homeland Security's got this problem because all these government employees, and we know how crooked they all are, right? Most of these are honest, hardworking people, are inadvertently leaking. Like, this is getting worse. And so, and then U.S. Patent and Trade Office did a study, and their whole report, they did a report, and they reported Congress in 2006, regardless of this code of conduct, which, by the way, after that, they made a new code of conduct, which is also voluntary. And U.S. Patent and Trade said, look, these software packages have features that induce users to share without their knowledge.
Facebook?
Right, malware. Okay, now, if I'm in 2008, I'm supposed to know everything that my employee downloads. So now here's how we solve that problem. Boom, nothing. This is a manager. Okay, so I call head in the spec. Well, this is other stuff. But and so what happened? So when 2007 hit, at that hearing, what happened at that hearing in 2007 is that the FTC was blindsided by Bobbick's testimony and just is in no mood to be embarrassed in front of Congress. And what was coming out by default was like, "Hey, your assignment, you blew it." And so by 2009, they're in like some panic, and they worked with. This came out in the investigation. They contacted the FTC contacted Tiversa. Tiversa said, we want those files. We want those companies. Tiversa is like, well, we don't want to be known as the company that is like working with the government. We'll lose our client base. And the FTC is like, oh, that's fine. Create a third-party shell company. So this is out. So they created the Privacy Institute. Isn't that a cute name? And the Privacy Institute and guess who's, the Privacy Institute is based in New Jersey. And I believe Bobbick's uncle is the address for it. And his really close friend is the only officer. And you've got, this is the FTC's idea. And they take the files and they send them through the FTC there so that no one knows. But of course, that's okay because they're trying to save the world. And that's the type of stuff we're doing. And that's the stuff that came out just because I pushed back. And this is how they're skewering, defending themselves. So they want to stay up here. Now they have doubled down. They're like, they are working the Congress. They are circling, confusing. They are playing the power relationships. And now they're saying, none of this matters, even if it's true. LabMD had LimeWire on its computer. That's enough. So how many workstations in 2008 had LimeWire on their computer? So we have how many people that have violated the law? 1 million, make it 3 million. How many in the government? Is this a way? And let's say we're all guilty. Is the problem solved? In the meantime, J.P. Morgan, Target, Home Depot, Healthcare.com, for starters. It's nuts. It's utterly nuts. And so it has to drive it through because this
is a story coming to you soon if we allow them to have this type of power, because it's, I'm telling you, these guys just, these are people that have worked, like Alan Shearer has worked for the FTC for years. His whole thing is he's at the twilight of his career, and he wants to be the guy that gets Section 5 approved by the judicial system that they have cybersecurity oversight. And if they have cybersecurity oversight, folks, it ain't going to be a pretty day. Anyway, I'm still on my soapbox on that, but I got to work that. But those are the type of things you find out. It's like, you know, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? I mean, it's like, they're saying, you broke the law, but we don't have to tell you what the law is. But you should have known better.
And well, the thing is, typically, if you break the law, though, they take you to court, and they actually have to.
And we won't.
They have to present evidence, and they have to present evidence has to be presented a particular way, and has to have a certain amount of validity to it, which is or has to be tested in court. The validity of it. Here, they're saying, no, we're not going to do it in court. We're going to do it ourselves, and we're going to make up the rules.
The judge's email is ftc.gov.
If it wasn't
the courtroom's in the FTC building.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. Go ahead. Sorry.
If it happened through negligence, that's one thing. If it happened through an insider, that's a completely different thing.
Yes.
And they can't prove how it happened.
A $50,000 fine from the FTC should have made this all in.
But it wouldn't have, because they would have ruined our reputation. And all I was asking was, what did we do wrong? They can't prove in court that it came from our workstation. They relied on Tiversa's evidence, which has now been said under oath to be said made up and false.
I want to know the balance of the equation. How many contracts Tiversa executed?
They had contract. Well, that's interesting because the judge.
Well, you can't ask until you get to a court of law.
Oh, we can ask. That's probably they had at least 3 contracts. They have at least 3 contracts with Homeland Security. I mean, they have contracts with feds, but
no. She's saying that the people they called, like they called you.
Oh, well, that's what happened with Well, I don't know yet because.
That should be a very interesting balance.
Well, I mean, I do know a lot, but I can't say that yet publicly. But that'll come out. I mean, the more that comes out, that's why the inside pressure in the government is like, fall on the grenade, fall on the grenade, fall on the grenade. I'm like, oh no. See, I know it's going to come out. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just thinking of that. FTC's been aggressively doing this since cyberspace came out in the early 90s. So there should be at least 2 decades worth of victims. Have you been able to find?
No, Tiversa didn't even develop.
No, not Tiversa. Other people strong-armed by the FTC.
Okay, I'm sorry, that is another story, because who are most of the victims?
Small
corporations. No, corporations. Okay, now look, with all due respect.
You can always play the politician card because they all align.
Well, corporations are artificial people. They're legally have legal rights like people, but they're artificial. So people come and go. Okay, so and here's the other thing. It's not fair to corporations. They've got judiciary duties. They've got judiciary vulnerabilities. They've got shareholder lawsuits. And don't think the government agencies don't know this. When they tap you on a shoulder, they're like, row. Here we're in a different type of lose-lose. We could get and so it boils down to a money equation to them. It's like, what's the cheapest way out of this?
Right. That's right.
And that's how they build this common law. And for me, I mean, the reason I was such a nightmare to them is because 1, I was in medicine. 2, I don't care what happens legally, they always lose in the court of public opinion. And 3, that I don't have fiduciary duty issues because I don't have shareholders. I don't have all those vulnerabilities.
Are you an LLC or
I'm an S corp? S corp. Okay. So, and they can't come after me personally because when you own a medical facility that's a medical laboratory, you can't operate even just because you own it. I have to have pathologists that are legally licensed to supervise and run it. So they can't pierce the corporate veil saying I own all the shares, because that doesn't mean nothing. I can't run the company. You lose those other people. I don't care if I own it or not. What I own is all the losses. So that they're not coming at us. Now it's just the subtleties that are so interesting. The longer I get to talk to people, one of the other subtleties about this is breach. The FTC is so masterful in their words and their PR machine. When you read the PR release on the case, everyone in the press is using the word breach. The word breach is never there because they can't prove it. But they know when you play the public opinion thing, when you say we had this file, people are going to say breach. And it worked like a charm.
The only way to get the file is breach.
Right.
Whereas Tiversa could have actually broken into your computer illegally and
Hey,
taken.
what do you think? I don't know, man. You'll find out later. But you're onto something. but there's just one point. So while we were in a deposition, there was this moment when they were deposing someone, the FTC was deposing someone, and the lawyer said, and when the breach occurred, and I remember this because this was so, she went, oh, stop. She put her hand up like Diana Ross's friends. Stop. I misspoke. I don't mean the word breach. We use the word incident. Now, there's a legal reason for that. Okay, because, and those are the things you just, they're justifying every slimy type of act they do to justify the bigger picture, and that action is alarming. I'm sorry, you were going to start.
How long was that document out there before they?
There was no out there.
Right, so.
There's no out there.
There.
They have.
There's no out there, and that's the other thing. So here's the thing. A breach is the loss of a file to an untrusted source. Well, from the beginning, this was the government. The government funded Homeland Security. The government was working with Tiversa. I mean, the government, Homeland Security funded Tiversa, Dartmouth. They were all in this together. Now, that doesn't mean the Homeland Security. I mean, they're responsible for who they contract with. It was
you
never.
Can't sue Homeland Security.
Get
anywhere.
So think of
it
this way. Would you consider this a breach?
Yeah,
Let's say I work for some security company, begins with a T. I work for them. While I'm working for them, I go get a job with your company. And while I'm there, I get trusted permissions because I'm an employee. I plug in a USB thumb drive and I copy a bunch of files off it. And then come back to you and ask for a contract to clean up the problem. Now, this is complete supposition on my part. I'm not saying they did this.
It's hypothetical.
Okay, it's hypothetical.
Right.
Is that a breach?
No.
No. Okay. However,
Thank you.
I have your data.
Right.
And if some third party, begins with a T, has your data, it only could have occurred if there was a breach. Not necessarily.
That file's not out there, folks. We have looked at this day. There's not. It's so interesting. That's why Health and Human Services says they haven't done anything. There's no victim. Now, look at the power of the government.
And they wouldn't guarantee that their remediation wasn't 100%?
Oh, are you kidding me? I mean, I asked for the contract just for comedy. I mean, they're like, well, Tiversa lets you go. He asked for the contract. Yeah, I asked for the contract because I want to see what kind of BS you're slinging.
Yeah.
I'm not asking for the contract because I want to hire you. You can ask for contracts for a lot of reasons. You're so on my back. You gotta read these emails. This subtle seduction innuendo. I'm here to help you. Boom, boom, boom. It's crazy.
Well, that's how we do our cold calls.
Right, exactly. We're here to help. So now, the one I want to answer about the other companies is here's the big thing. It's like the FTC, because they make their own rules, have all sorts of powers that in federal court are going to fade away. For example, all their investigators are lawyers. So they say, because it's a lawyer, they've got privilege, and they don't have to tell you because it's privilege. But the lawyers aren't acting as lawyers, they're acting as investigators. So once we get out of their own rules, so the courts get, well, they made that rule, that's their rule. Congress said they made that rule. So if Congress says the rule's okay, and the Supreme Court doesn't say it's unconstitutional, if you'd like to take that trek, anyone got an extra $10 million in a few years, then, so we can't, it's not going to, there's no way to talk about or even prove anything when you're going down that road. It's just pick your battle and pay your invoice. So we just, they don't. And then the companies, I'm telling you, I've talked to some companies and they have signed consent decrees. The only way I know that they've signed consent decrees is because it's public. A couple of them I've spoken to, and the universal thing with all of them is they all feel completely violated, and they're all scared. And they're all corporations. So there's not the same skin in the game. And they're all surviving. But, I mean, there's one was just like, he was like, I'm in my 60s. I am so respectful of what you're doing. You are unbelievable. And I'm ashamed, but honest, that I can't. Because we wanted them to come up and testify. David came up to testify because he runs an AIDS clinic. And I called him up and I said, and I did not find out about him through. And I couldn't call anyone that I learned through any disclosures through Congress. I couldn't learn anything, not that I know much of that, and I couldn't find out anything that the FTC, because he's not going to tell you who they're investigating. I mean, for God knows how many companies they investigate versus that they take actions against. And there's that whole culture of intimidation and fear. And that's the tool. It's like, is this worth it? I talked to a producer of a major CBS show who said to me, his kills, he goes, well, the FTC isn't that powerful. I'm like,
are you insane?
And they don't know. People don't understand. The reason is corporations are not sexy victims for the media. This is not, hi, everyone. Tonight we're going to talk about the poor big company. So it doesn't translate over here.
So do they care any longer now that your company's closed down?
Who?
FTC.
Oh, yeah. I would say, I'm sure they have dartboards with my picture on it, which keeps me going. I mean, they care, all right.
I'm closing the company doesn't make them go away.
Oh, no, because I didn't dissolve the company, number one.
Okay.
But even if I did I researched that before because we were in trouble. And I was like, okay, you can go after dissolved companies. And that was a risk at the time. It's like, oh, what am I going to do? Keep it open and lose more tons of money?
Right.
You know, hey, would anyone like to come work for us? My VP of operations just fled to the West Coast because he's about had it with this. Would you like to step in? No, thanks. So you know, we're supposed to build from this while it's still going on. And yet, and so the risk was, okay, if you go away, they'll drop it. I thought, if they drop this now, who's going to care? I mean, we're dead. Oh well, it's a trend. So but we thought there's no way in hell we're going to drop this because they've got too much going on. And now, I mean, listen, hindsight's 2020. Do you think in a million years I thought I was going to have a whistleblower,
right,
validating all this? I mean, I was on the phone with him going, he is like in tears, crying, apologizing, thrilled I'm not yelling at him, terrified I'm going to put him in jail. I mean, just a complete soul cleanse. And I'm just going, oh my God, I knew it. It was like, because, you know, 6 years of this shit, excuse me. So, you know, and you don't want, but you have to be careful talking about the story. The point isn't for me, because I'm okay. I mean, I'm okay, but my employees all lost their jobs. Most of them got jobs. I have one employee who's deaf, who worked at Walmart for 6 years at stocking shelves from midnight to 8 at $8 an hour. And she applied all over the place, and she couldn't get a job anywhere. We hired her, put her in billing, and she was a machine because you know what she does? Concentrate. I mean, she has no interruptions. She's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And she also was so damn happy she wasn't stocking shelves at 3 in the morning. So I would get these love notes. She still can't find a job. And she was so blown away by this love. I felt so sorry for her. Those are the victims. See, that's what happens. That's the type of stuff that's just crazy. But anyway. So now what's happening is this. It's like I just spoke to the federal side in California. I spoke to the Independence Institute. I've been on radio shows and TV, and I was at where else? Oh, I keynote healthcare. DEF CON. I totally dig DEF CON because it is. You guys are like activistic and individual, and so I really want the technological. I want the technology world and the medical world and the political world to get into it. And it seems to be working. But I've been so tied up in court and congressional investigations and putting my company down. I mean, we just got rid of the company cars a month ago. I mean, it's just like that stuff, this end game. But then moving forward, hopefully this will be compelling. And I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I'm telling you, the next book, this is like the preamble. And I met unbelievable. Go ahead.
I was thinking, sort of, since you're always so busy, have you gotten like a Facebook page for people like this?
If you go to thedevilinsidethebeltway.com, you can do my name too, but and the website's on the back of the book. But thedevilinsidethebeltway.com is easy. You can see, you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook. You know, you can see there's a lot of law review articles. The legal profession's really into this because I was at Congress about 3 weeks ago, and one of the lead lawyers from the majority said, you know, you and Wyndham have the 2 biggest cybersecurity cases in the United States right now. Because we're just pushing this up to the top. And so what will happen about the administrative process, like I didn't finish that question about what you have to understand. Because they chose the administrative process, we have to go through it. Then we come out. So say the judge says, I agree, LabMD's off the hook, this is crazy. The commissioners can just go, oh, we disagree, wrong. So we go through all that process, and the commissioners go, we disagree. And one of the commissioners, well, I don't know, they probably will for sure, they have a choice. But it's interesting because they got so much pressure on. This is they're not used to getting actually eyeballs. The FTC is not a sexy agency. I mean, if you say FTC to doctors, they don't know what the hell you're talking about. People don't know FTC, not like they know EPA or IRS. But it's getting there. But anyway, so then Josh Wright is he's a Republican appointee that took Rosh's space, appointed by Obama. He's very he's a good guy. He's very into due process. And he's written a lot of. I was mad at him in the book because he voted to sue me. I don't know if he would do it again today. He's probably not happy that I lambasted him for voting to sue me, but I was really mad at all commissioners voted to sue, which I was outraged by. Because the 2 Republicans could have voted too, and there were only 4 commissioners at the time. It could have been 2-2, and this could have tied. But the 2 Republicans went stateside. And so it was 4-0. I was like, 4-0? Are you kidding me? So, but he has written since. He wrote a paper in December about how the fact of the matter is that half of the FTC almost always wins inside their own court. But when they get outside of the appeal process, they lose half. There is a problem with how it's structured so that fundamental fairness isn't happening, and people that don't have the means to get out of the system get crushed. And that's their tool. So that's what's going to happen next. But that's great for me because what they assumed, I guess they assumed a small company would not go, but now I've got so much attention. We have other people funneling this. So, I mean, as far as with cause of action, and people are keeping the blood in my veins so that we're not drained dry in the fight. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about, because there's several different activist IT groups, and I'm figuring you can go to some bigger political parties that could help.
And that's all grassroots stuff, and that's exactly right, because there's only one of me, and I'm the least credible person actually. I mean, when I run around and go, this happened to me, no matter what, it's not as sexy. Like when I pick up the book and I go, oh my God, this book is so awesome, I worked my ass off. That is not as compelling. So if a total stranger says this book's unbelievable, which is why I gave you the objective, objective. That is got a lot of 5-star reviews, but that is, I think, one of the best well-written summaries of that review I passed out. So anyone you guys know that knows that, the referral is the key. And coming from you is way more credible than coming from me. And I have obviously quick contacts in medicine, but medicine is so sidetracked with their own medical issues. I mean, these people are so buried trying to keep people alive and do their jobs that they have other people out helping. So it's medicine's kind of the legal world right now is who's really ahead of the curve on this. But I think technology world is what really can do it. I really do. That's why I went to DEF CON. I didn't go to DEF CON this year. I did not. By the way, do you guys know the FTC was at DEF CON this year? Who was at DEF CON in Vegas this year? Anyone go? Did you see the FTC at DEF CON?
They have a booth?
No, what they did is they had a whole. They were, and I was kind of. I mean, look. My immature, angry side likes to give them hell via Twitter sometimes, and so you can see some of my tweets like, and so they're sitting there. They're there in their blue jeans, acting like they're friends with everybody, and they had some game they want everyone to play, and they're trying to break bread and get along. I'm like, I wish I was there. I didn't know they're going to be there, but I couldn't make it because I was stuck. I was testifying actually and getting ready. And when you get called to testify, it's not like you just show up. It was like 2 weeks of prep, lawyers. It's amazing. But so anyway, I couldn't go there, and I saw that. I was really upset because I thought, what an opportunity, that would have been great, just to bash him on Twitter while I was there.
Take selfies with
Yeah, it was like, don't believe her. Just because they're in blue jeans and a t-shirt, don't trust her. It's just a uniform. Anyway, but because you have to have fun when this happens. So being the flying ointment has its advantages. But anyway, it's 20 after 4. Anyone else got any? Yes, sir.
What was the value of the company before the FTC?
Oh, well, annually at our peak we were about 10 million. By the time we were done, we were about 50% smaller. And it's hard value-wise as far as I'm talking about revenues. I was like, value is a whole different accounting equation.
So do you think you're probably the smallest, company they've gone after, or is that probably
probably, I guess, but I don't think it's, I don't think it was a conspiracy. I don't think it was, I think it was that the original thing is Tiversa came in and took a very sexy file. One thing that I probably can talk about, I think, sorry to my lawyers that I can't, but I'm going to, is that we found out through deposition testimony that the way Dartmouth said they got the file in their report, I mean, they put out a report called, I think it's called Data Hemorrhages in the Healthcare Sector, or something like that. And they talk, it's an academic paper, and it talks about how we got this data. It turned out not to be true. That they actually was with Tiversa and said, and it's quoted, we got it through discovery, but there's an email that goes to Tiversa that says, hey, you know, our stuff that you sent us is less than we hoped. Do you have anything that you can spice it up with? Nice. And we were the spice. Here's something sexy. So it's like sexy because it's like 1,700 pages, 9,000 patients, patient name, patient social security number, no address, no phone number, policy number, group number, insurance carrier, diagnosis code. Diagnosis code of not what they have, but the reason of why they had a test. And you'd have to know what the diagnosis codes are, you know. But anyway, so that's sexy so that you can go, oh my God.
So
and
as
then
soon as you say social security number,
yeah.
you really have to refer.
Right, exactly.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. And I assume you relaxed, and I assume it got out, and you know, love the expert witnesses, and this is okay in administrative court. The judge can't really get rid of expert witnesses. You can bring in the biggest loser known to man, and just can say whatever he wants, and he gets to figure out what type of impact. He gets to decide how much impression he can say, I'm not going to use them that much. So the way he can dissolve it is he can say, I'm not going to consider it much, but he can't get rid of them. So they bring in someone from Harvard, some local person, I think from Georgetown, but they bring in their three, and these are perfectly good people, and they were told to assume two things. One, rely on Bobbick's testimony from the November 2003 deposition where he said LabMD's file, where it's at 4 IP addresses, downloaded from San Diego, I think it was Panama. There were four places around the world, and they said, we didn't download it in Georgia. We downloaded it from San Diego. And assume all that's true, and assume that LabMD has lax data security practices. Those are the two assumptions. Now, if you're told to assume that, you're paid. Right. What are you going to do? I mean, nice equation. So let's start our geometry analysis at that. But in administrative court, they can do it, and we can't get rid of the expert witness. Now, when we get over to level playing field in 2016, then it'll be a different story. You know, and those poor expert witnesses. It's insane. But and then our expert witness comes in. It's let me get there. Anything else? So look, I've got books which are $10. Just help me cover costs. If you want to buy a book, please do. I have the letter from ISA that I want you to see because, and I brought copies for you guys because the ISA letter. Well, there's just some things that are better coming from him more credibly. And
ISA is a person.
Do you guys anyone know who Chairman ISA is? Anyone not know who Chairman ISA is? The House Oversight Committee is empowered by Congress to investigate any aspect of the government for any reason. And so they are the ones that were doing the IRS and Benghazi and other things. And
it's pretty awesome.
They were investigating, and they feel that there's been
I already know.
I want to read it on my e-reader.
Yeah, I think I sent it.
So they know you're reading. No.
No. You realize it's going to show up like you read it when you read it. This is DC404, right?
That sounds like manipulating security controls.
They're like, why is he reading that? He usually watches porn.
Not on a company computer.
They're like, we don't know what to do.
And the book's on Amazon and ebook. It's $10 on ebook. It's on audiobook and softcover and hardcover. And then softcover for $10 if anyone wants hardcover.
Okay, I'm going to kill the broadcast for me. So.
Yeah.
Everybody cool with that? Okay.
Everybody clap.
Yay!